This is the Mulligan's 2 podcast. I'm Terry David Mulligan. Two friends come by. It would have been four, except we're going to spread them out a bit. We had four guests on the October 14th edition of the Stew because we're fundraising. We had to, and they had shelf life, and we just had to put them all together. Buffy Sainte-Marie is our first guest. Tom Wilson is our second. Buffy announced not too long ago that she was going to stop touring after some 60 years of touring. The travel had finally taken its toll, and she did the wise thing. She's going to stay home and do interviews, etc., and recording and writing from Hawaii. Wouldn't you? So Buffy Sainte-Marie, who I've known a long time, will be our first guest. And her documentary called Carry It On has been nominated for an International Emmy. They will announce those Emmy winners November the 20th in New York City, and we wish her the best. So Buffy Sainte-Marie, wonderful singer, wonderful songwriter, incredible human being, a leader of her fans, her people, will be the first interview. The second, well, we'll tell you about it when we get there. Here's Buffy Sainte-Marie. Hello, Buffy.
Hello, Terry. How long have we known each other?
I wish I could think of where that first meeting was, but it's a long time ago. Somehow I see Ian and Sylvia in there somewhere, and Daniel Lanois and others. It was anyway. It was probably a stage somewhere.
In many times, in many places. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you. You.
Uh-oh.
You were a power, and I wondered. I'm thinking of me like you. Can you then step back as you have done? You have stepped away from performing, and the road. Do you have to keep yourself busy? Can you just enjoy the day as it goes by? How are you?
Some days I can, yeah. Some days but I have a hard time finding time. I'm just so busy, even though I'm not on the road. But that's how I've always been, Terry. You know, I took 16 years off in the middle of my career, kind of to raise my son, but I was writing. That's when I was building the Cradleboard Teaching Project. I was having a private life, and I was writing songs and doing paintings. So I don't know. I think I've been very fortunate in having the kind of career that you can come and go from it. You know, I mean, it's not as though I'm beholden to a big corporation or a retirement fund or something. The job that I have is sometimes very hard and stressful with regard to travel and virtually not even having a home, living in a suitcase that's lost in the airline's kerfuffle. So I was having a real hard time with travel. I got stranded in Denver airport for 3 days. The monitors were sending us all to the wrong gates. It was just terrible. And I had commitments that I was missing. It was COVID time. So I got into some pretty difficult situations with regard to travel twice. And then I have a frozen shoulder and arthritis in my hands. So I decided it's just the perfect time for me to retire from traveling, but nothing else got retired. I just went back to doing it all at home. I mean, I've had a recording studio and computers for a real long time. So it's easy. It was easier for me, I think, Terry.
That's what I'm doing.
Yep.
That's what I'm doing. This is, thank God this all came along. And I keep and I envy so much younger artists and younger people in this business who grew up with computers. We didn't. We will never catch up. We will never get to the leading edge unless we dedicate ourselves to it entirely. And so we're always apologizing for being a little slow on the old keyboards and making technical mistakes and whatever. But some things remain the same: songwriting, singing, performing.
They kind of remain the same, but I mean, when I first went to Greenwich Village, there was just me and my guitar. Nobody even knew I played piano. Yeah. They didn't know much about me at all. And I got into electronic music and computers very, very early. I mean, I was already taking kids online in the 80s, using that awful old Pine IBM style software. So I was lucky enough to get into what we now think of as technology. There wasn't a word for it then.
So lucky.
Early, yeah. I got into it early when it was easy because there was nobody who had a business trying to make it hard so that they would have a job fixing things. No, things used to work really well.
This film brought it all back to me. Carry It On, which is your song title, of course. Carry It On is up for an Emmy, International Emmy Award. That will be announced November.
Madison Thomas, our director, and Andrea Warner, our head writer. Oh, congratulations to them, and I'll take some too. It's really, really nice. And somebody told me yesterday that Carry It On, our documentary, is the only Canadian film being mentioned for the International Emmy. So, gee, hope, fingers crossed.
Yes. Did you think twice? Did you want this story to be told? Did you have to be convinced?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did. I didn't want to do it at first. Andrew Munger from White Pine Pictures approached me, and I didn't even want to take a meeting, but I said, okay, I'll meet Andrew, who was very nice. And we met in a hotel lobby and had a cup of tea and talked it over. And I said, oh God, I don't want to do another documentary. Joan Prouse did a perfectly adequate documentary that everybody loved. Adequate. That's a terrible. No, she did a wonderful documentary. It's called Buffy Sainte-Marie, Multimedia Life, but it was done in 2012.
Yes.
Like that was before Power in the Blood, or, there's a lot of attention now being given to Indigenous issues, and there wasn't earlier. So, things have changed a lot. And I didn't want to do it because there had been 2 books written about me and a documentary. So, I don't like, in general, I think of documentaries as being black and white, boring talking heads, which of course is totally out the window. That's not true. But when White Pine brought on Eagle Vision, who are Lisa Meaches and Kyle Irving's company in Winnipeg, who do a lot of Indigenous films and really know what they're doing. And when White Pine did that, and when they brought on Andrea Warner as the writer, because she had written my biography, she already knew all the highlights. And I didn't want to make a documentary about myself. So Madison Thomas was hired. She's a wonderful young filmmaker from Winnipeg. The 2 of them really put it together, and they bounced off me. We have a picture of this. You got any footage of that? What happened? Can you clarify this? So we went back and forth a lot, and it was a lot of fun. But they were calling the shots, thank goodness, because, there's been so much, Terry, written down about me. I'm 82 and I've had a career over 60 years. That's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of urban legend that's just plain wrong. And, there was a lot that I would love to have had in the documentary, but there just plain wasn't time.
Yeah, that's true. It's the same with books. The editors say, take it. But I said, no, that's 15 years. I'm sorry. Madison is quoted as saying, it's so important that as many people as possible get to hear Buffy's story and hear her message. My question is, which story? There's so many. Which message? There's so many. Oh
gosh, we had to leave so much out. I mean, in Carry It On, it's I think it's an hour and 48 minutes or something, whatever the length needed to be. There's very little about my childhood.
Yeah.
It's very, there's one terrible incident in my childhood that's mentioned, but there's none of the happy stuff. There's not, you don't really get a picture of who I was because, I didn't really have any identity. I didn't know whether I was Indigenous or not, or mixed, or I was adopted. I didn't know who my parents were. I didn't know who I was. Also, there's nothing about my romances, and there's very little time that we spent on the Cradleboard teaching project. So it's always a matter of, just like you say, it's column space and time that limits you. But just having had a long life and having had 2 wonderful biographers and 2 wonderful documentaries in the world, there's just your life can start to feel like a list of bullet points. And normally when I'm going to do an interview, with someone, I'll ask for questions in advance and then I'll answer them in writing and send them back because I like to clarify. I'm always trying to clarify the urban legend stories because some of them are just not true and others are confusing. I think there's been confusion regarding my Pie Pot adoption, for instance. I was adopted into the Pie Pot family, not I was adopted out of Pie Pot Reserve. That makes a big difference. And there are a lot of ways that you can try and clarify things, but urban legend is what it is, and sometimes you just kind of got to live with it. So you're always swimming upstream a little bit. And normally the questions that a journalist will send me, it's usually the same 20 questions. They usually want to know about the same thing. So in compiling what was going to be in and left out of the documentary, I really left it up to Andrea and Madison and the production teams.
I feel honored to be able to ask these questions of you all these years. All these years. But
that's the fun too.
you don't know, but I've been looking over your shoulder. I've been trying to follow as much as I can and leave you alone. And then I pop up and say, "Can we talk?" I saw a quote in the New York Times. I think it's yours. It wasn't about careerism at all. I wanted to write songs that would last for generations. You did.
Thank you. I really tried hard, Terry. And people don't usually ask that one very often. Yeah, when I was, when I had been through high school and college, and I was in Greenwich Village, and I didn't have any courage when it came to singing. How would I ever get on a stage? And I'd been singing songs in my university days in a coffee house. But in Greenwich Village, I was there because of the songs.
Yeah,
that's what gave me the courage to step on the stage. I really thought that I had some things to say that people wanted to hear. And sometimes it was something about the countryside, the environment, Pineywood Hills, or a love song. But sometimes it was Universal Soldier. Sometimes it was Now That the Buffalo's Gone. Universal Soldier got a lot of attention, so until it's time for you to go. Now That the Buffalo's Gone did not. Yeah. The Indigenous sides of my songwriting really didn't start to be recognized until just a few years ago.
I would believe with all of that, all of your lyrics and your push, your own personal push, the way you stood for yourself, your power, you would have been branded as a troublemaker right from the get-go. You were going to make trouble.
I guess I was.
I loved your trouble.
A little bit. I mean, Universal Soldier. A lot of people, it's written, Universal Soldier got her blacklisted. I don't think so. I don't think Universal Soldier is a song I wrote. Donovan recorded. Almost everybody thought he had written it.
Yeah.
And Glenn Campbell recorded it. Well, Donovan and Glenn Campbell didn't get into any trouble at all. And nobody knew I had written it because it was coming out that Donovan had written it. I still get people telling me that, no, you didn't write it, Donovan wrote it. So, but the Indigenous issues and what I was talking about was done at a much quieter level. And I think that that's what got me into trouble with whoever didn't want me speaking out, because they not only got me, they gagged us all in the U.S. Yeah. The Indian issues were just not allowed to be headlines where they should have been.
I saw the anniversary of John Lennon's, when he finally got his green card so he could come to America legally. It just went by. I don't know what year, but I just remember that he was branded as this ne'er-do-well, this troublemaker who was wrong for America. John Lennon, of all people. John freaking Lennon.
See how we are as human beings? I don't know. Yeah.
All right. I saw another quote. I love these quotes. Emily from Indigo Girls. I think that people in this country are seeking meaning in their music and have been doing that for a long, long time. They're seeking that right now. It's just a way of dealing with the problems around them, their lives. Meaning in music. How about meaning in music? Do you feel as though we're in a golden age? Are people reading lyrics? Are they? Because you can't pick up an album anymore and read the lyrics. It just doesn't work like that. But do you get a sense that today, with today's music, for example, is meaning still important?
Know how much difference there is with that, Terry. I mean, for instance, I'm the passenger drive. We're riding along. We'll hear a song. I'll Shazam it. I'll always look up the lyrics. Yeah. That's great. I love it. On the other hand, I loved having a nice piece of artwork of the artist and some things that were written. Of course, sometimes it wasn't the artist having any control over what was written or the picture that was chosen. That was all a bunch of business guys just, trying to, support their brand. So we didn't have a lot of control. I think in some ways artists have more control and in other ways less control. But what's really different right now, forget the technology, but what the technology has done is now millions of people have a voice instead of just some head honcho of this record company, that record company, and the person that they hire as a publicist. Yeah. Millions of people now have a voice. So that we have to put up with each other. We do. That's what we have to learn how to do. It's different now. Now everybody's talking. It wasn't right when only a few could talk. But right now it's so loud that it's kind of hard because everybody's talking.
That's right.
But we can get through this.
But what has happened, and that we will agree on this and carry it on, exemplified it, really billboarded it, that was there's now Indigenous voices surrounding us, spoken on stage, on film, everywhere. They insisted on having their voice. They found their voice. Their voices being heard. That, in many ways, is part of your legacy.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm glad that there are a lot of voices. I mean, I did a concert in Ottawa about a year ago, wherein a whole lot of Indigenous artists were doing my songs, and I got to just sit there and listen. Just sang one song. It was called the Star Walker concert. We did it in Ottawa, and it was just so beautiful for me to see these Indigenous artists who, I may have met them, 30, 40 years ago when they were just kids or when they were just beginning, and touch base from time to time, and just to see how people ripen. Everybody from Tanya Tagaq to Susan Aglukark and just many artists have been good for a long time, and a lot of people have known about them. But I think since Truth and Reconciliation came along and presented irrefutable information, that was very serious.
It started the dialogue. Yes, it did. Have you been in Canada for a day to remember, the day of Truth and Reconciliation? It just went by.
No, I wasn't here. No, I don't travel anymore, so I wasn't here. And last year, I participate each year.
Yes.
I usually participate, in different ways, but usually through the Downey Wenjack Fund. We'll figure out something to do because I'm on their education committee, and we find things for kids to do. But where were you going with your point?
Well, no, it's just that CKUA did an entire day of quotes in Indigenous music. William Prince was there, and it has found its voice. It has moved forward. It will be with us forever.
But it's just a start. We all have to remember.
Oh yeah,
we have to remember.
And the point I tried to make to anybody who listened is, every day for me is that voice. Every day. There's not just one day that I set aside. It's every day, because my father was a game warden in Kamloops, and every day we drove by that residential school on my way to school and events. Every day, and I looked at it and I'm thinking there was a dread about it. I couldn't get. Nobody would answer the questions. What's going on in there? What happens there? It drives me crazy that I could have done something, but I was too young. I was not.
Of course, it drives us all crazy. We all want to do more. And the way I look at it, I mean, some days I get to do something, some days I don't. When you get an opportunity to help, it might be a little opportunity or a big opportunity,
Yeah.
but you work with reality. And sometimes you get a chance. Sometimes you get, and you got to run. But, I was in an airport. I was an honorary witness for Truth and Reconciliation, but I was in an airport and I ran into Katsi Cook, who's she was a real witness as opposed to an honorary witness. Yeah. And I asked Katsi, I said, how do you do it day after day, listening to the testimonies of people who've gone through what they went through, in residential school? And she said, they gave us a very good tool, a good think tool. She said, you're a witness, you're not a vessel.
Yes.
So I tell people about that because I know a lot of people, whether they're Indigenous or not, or mixed, whatever they are, it's so hard to carry this around. Don't turn it into a burden and put a bag of rocks in a backpack and carry it around, feel guilty or bitter or something. No, you're a witness. No, you're a witness. You're not a vessel. And that, if you're a witness, you can continue to work. You continue to ripen. You continue to teach and learn and build. And, that's about the best I can make of it.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Buffy Sainte-Marie, friends. This film will take on a life of its own, carry it on. I love the track. I've loved the track ever since I heard it. I love the voices. The voices. The voices in behind. Those combined. There was some young voices in behind you, and they just.
No, I'm afraid they're me. Yeah, that's me.
You did do right by speaking out about and including the dark side of the music business in the film, because there are parts of the music business that are shameful.
I think there are parts of any business that are like that, though. Yeah. The music business is no different. No, there's a bunch of crooks. There are a bunch of greedy people. There's all kinds of nasty folks, but there's also all kinds of good folks. It's the same as any other business. Business itself, I think I have a problem with business itself because I think it's set up wrong. I think that business schools, like the Chicago Business School, they founded the Banana Republic. It's, you do it before somebody else does. It's take as much as you can get and give the least you can.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately one of the cornerstones of business that I think that we need to change. I think we need to change that. And it's time we do.
You don't want to start a label or anything, do you?
No, I'll leave that to you. No, I don't want to start anything like that. No, okay. I just think that I know that there are a lot of wonderful people in business, but I just, they just don't pay attention to business ethics, and awful things go on all the time. Business, politics, education, wherever you have that mindset of take as much as you can get and give the least you can, and that's how you win. No, it's not. That is hierarchical colonial thinking, and life in a circle can be done differently, and we're learning how to do that again and sharing it with others. The world is still ripening. Every one of us is still ripening. None of us is done. Everything, you look outside, every blade of grass, every flower, every animal, everything is ripening, whether we like it or not. We are ripening together. Babies, angels, elders, and bozos. We're all ripening. So there is hope. But don't be in a hurry.
I wrote in watching the documentary, I wrote down, I don't know who said it, but we have to heal ourselves. We can't wait for others to heal us. We have to heal ourselves. You believe that?
Kind of. That's a little bit simple. I don't remember saying that myself, but I think we have to allow ourselves to heal sometimes. I don't know whether we heal ourselves or the Creator heals us or we heal each other. I don't know, Terry.
I wrote down Annie Mae's name right underneath it, so it might have been in that segment there.
And I'm sorry, I don't really remember.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm kind of jealous of you. It's a sad story. You when you were going to school, that you were going past Kamloops, residential school at that time. But it in a way, I mean, you think of me as, real Indigenous. And people would say, oh, you're real non-Indigenous. But in a way, you probably grew up closer to community than I did. Because where I was raised in New England. I wasn't raised in Saskatchewan. I was raised in New England. And my life growing up was more like The Sopranos than Dances with Wolves. I was living in a town where, what you really wanted to do was fit in and look like the other kids. Yeah. And there weren't any Indigenous kids around. So, you try to look like the latest movie star, and in high school, blonde your hair and try to look like whoever, I think it was Sandra Dee. Yeah, but here we are all these years later, and we're both on we're on a similar trail of information, healing, communication. And yet you're probably closer to it than I am. And yet I'm writing about it in a way that captures it from a different perspective than you yourself. So that gives me great strength, really, in just things that don't have any ethnicity at all, like friendship, like communication, like trying, like the will to make things better. Yeah, that kind of stuff is really the center of it for me.
I was lucky enough to go to school with Indigenous kids in North Vancouver. What I remember was going home with them after school, and the elders, the ladies actually, were always around the kitchen table, and they were doing beadwork, and they were working with deer skins, elk skins, shaping them, creating things, and they would give me little bits and pieces of cuttings that they were going to throw away anyway. And I would take them, put them in my pocket. My clothes from grades 5 through 8 all smelled of smoke. Smoke. Because I put them in my bottom drawer. I realized I was stepping into somebody else's life, and it was totally different from mine. Oh. And I love the community that I found in that kitchen.
It's so sweet, and I love that you mentioned the fragrance, that fragrance, because, as somebody who lives in Hawaii, but I'm in Canada, up until very recently, most of the time, I mean, when I come back to Hawaii, I'm always sniffing my moccasins or a little bag that I have. That it's the fragrance of, well, in the first place, just getting off the plane, like in Alberta, and just smelling the pine and just smelling Canada's forests. And then the idea of smoked moose hide and sweetgrass. People have written so much about, bloody conflict, cowboys and Indians, FBIs and Indians, colonials and Indians. Who has written about the fragrances, the loveliness, the love stories? Some people have, Robin Wall Kimmerer and Louise Erdrich. I mean, there are a lot of great writers. And to me, when I was just out of college and wanting to share Indigenous things with people, or when I was, first involved in like movie making, for instance, Ted Turner was doing 13 Indigenous-based movies. They were all about male warfare. So what I'm saying is that it's only now that we're going to be able to flower to the point where you're able to see our positivity, our beauty, our contributions, our creativity, from our own lens. And it's not easy, but many of our artists are starting to blossom in, of course, all kinds of ways, but some of these ways are so positive and so lovely that I think people are going to be surprised, because I think we've always been portrayed either as some kind of loser, either genocide or some kind of savage or naive, or we've been so misportrayed, and our reality is really beginning to flourish in so many different ways now that you can't even describe it. Everybody's ripening.
It's funny. It's harvest time here in the Cowichan Valley. They're ripening as well. They're making wine.
My heart.
I'm going to have a conversation, an interview with Jeremy Ducher.
Oh.
And I think it's Jeremy who says, Buffy's like that first ripple in the water, and we are the echo.
Oh my God.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. He's beautiful, isn't he?
I can't wait to talk to him. And I wrote down Native American education. What are you working on still in terms of education for your people?
Well, just the quickie is that in the 60s, I started basically a scholarship fund. Yeah. And when we had finished with Sesame Street and my son was 5, I got to stay home for a long time, and I started writing a new Indigenous curriculum because his grade 5 teacher told me that she was required by law to do an Indian unit. The materials that she had were just hopeless. They were just awful. So I started to write a new Indigenous teaching unit, yeah, which eventuated into the Cradleboard Teaching Project, which now we're trying to bring to Canada. So my Nahiwan Foundation for Native American Education still exists in the U.S., but in Canada, we're an entirely different charity, independent, although we do share some educational materials. So what we do in the Cradleboard Teaching Projects is we twin schools with by putting the Indigenous community into the driver's seat of delivering whatever curriculum information they want to their partner. And then the kids learn together and the teachers learn together. But what they're learning is something brand new in Canada. Wow. Usually people study Indigenous things in the fall, after Discoverers Day, around Thanksgiving, and then you get your Halloween costumes. And then after that's over, schools wash their hands of it. And the entire curriculum goes back usually to being solely Eurocentric. Nothing wrong with doing what we're doing now, but we're not doing enough. We're not including everybody. Therefore, it's not as good. So what we do, for instance, in science through Indigenous eyes, they didn't have science. The Greeks invented science. No, there's more to it than that. Everybody who survived had science. So we provide core curriculum in things like math, science,
basics,
social studies, geography. Yeah, only we present it through Indigenous perspectives, and the curriculum is greatly enhanced by local contributions by local Indigenous communities telling their own story about who they are, whether it's about history or science or whatever it is. So it's very highly structured so far as core curriculum goes. But then when it comes to contributions from Indigenous nations, we're linking with everything they have going. We're helping them to build new curriculum, and we're working through teacher education to teach them how to make it work in real schools. Because, before, Terry, I don't know if you know this about me, but before I was ever a professional singer, I was a teacher. Yeah, I have a degree in Oriental philosophy and a degree in education. So it's and for me, it's the same as songwriting. Curriculum writing is very similar to songwriting, and it's got to be good. It's got to be engaging. It can't be boring.
It also has to survive, because there's politicians are banning books. They're banning books.
Well, yeah, I know they are. As a matter of fact, I think some of the work that I've contributed to in the States there. Yep. They decided that, it didn't fit what they wanted to do.
Do we have the leadership in the Indigenous community? Is the leadership there?
Where?
At the top, at the each band, actually.
The leadership needs to be everywhere, and I would say yes, we do, but it's in various stages. But I'm telling you, in education, it is hot. Oh, we have some smart people. Yeah. When I first started the Cradleboard Teaching Project, tenured professors in universities refused to be involved with computers. They were not about to learn computers. No. But now, even the kids, everybody's so far along right now. So that we've got master's degrees and PhDs and really experienced cultural experts all over Canada. But the process continues from all over Canada to make the information available to one another, to future generations, to people beyond our own community. So it's really exciting, I think. I mean, it can't compete with, juicy gossip or if it bleeds, it leads,
Yeah.
right? You can't compete with that, but I'm telling you that under all that, there are there are really impressive people doing some great work.
Can I tell you somebody who has my full and complete attention? A new singer-songwriter, Adrian Sutherland is his name.
Oh, yes.
James Bay. James
He's
Bay.
been around for a while, too.
He turned a shipping container into a studio. He hooked up with Colin Linden in Nashville, and they recorded. Oh, his new album is fantastic. It's just fantastic.
I was just listening to Aqua. Do you know about her?
No, but I've been reading about her.
Aqua, yeah, no, there's two songs I would call to your attention. Come On Home. Oh my gosh, and it's so good. It's going to make you cry though. And then another one called Bury Me Deep, but she spells the word bury, she spells it Burry.
Okay.
Bury Me Deep. Both songs are great. No, there are a lot of, I got a whole list of people. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah.
Could we do this a year from now? If you're still interested in talking to anybody, because there's so much to talk about.
I know, there really is, huh? It's a big world out here.
It's Thanksgiving in Canada this weekend, so we wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
And yes, you may have stepped away, but you haven't stepped away. You're still very much a presence.
Thank you, Terry. It's really good to see you again. It's always good to talk to you. And, we go back a real long way. So thank you. And thank you for sharing your story about your childhood.
Take care.
Okay, Terry. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Buffy Sainte-Marie, the documentary that we talked about that you want to have a look at. Just take a look at her life and just imagine all those stages and all those paths she crossed. I love the idea that she was in Greenwich Village in New York singing, and sitting in the audience was Bob Dylan making notes mentally. Buffy, what a life. And it's captured in that documentary, Carry It On, which will be hopefully the recipient of an International Emmy November 20 in New York City. She's been nominated. Congratulations to all concerned. Now, the second guest is Tom Wilson. You know him from Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. You might know him from his art. He has been working on a musical stage play that is called Beautiful Scars, which is the name of a song of his, name of a art, the name of a book. As Tom says, when you get a really good title, run with it. So that's what he's done. Tom Wilson will be playing Festival Hall in Calgary, October the 19th. That's next Thursday. And Friday, he'll be in Edmonton. He'll be telling us about receiving the Order of Canada, a little about Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, a lot about Junk House, his former band of many years ago. They are re-releasing Strays, the album that was their biggest hit. He'll talk about his art and his shows and everything else that he's involved in. Wonderful guy, and I'm happy for him. Tom Wilson is our guest on the Mulligan Stew Podcast. All right, on this day of days, friends, I have never done or had 4 interviews in a single show. However, because we are fundraising over the next 2 weekends, we had to get these interviews in, and here they are. We have Buffy Sainte-Marie, Barney Bentall, we have Susan Tedeschi, and now Tom Wilson.
Terry.
Who knows 3 of those 4 people?
I do. I've gone to see Susan today. She's absolutely wonderful, and I've seen them play a couple times. So from afar, I love her, but I don't know her personally.
Okay, but you know Buffy.
I know Buffy. I love Buffy.
And you know Barney. You and Barney talked today, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I'm going to do the Caribou Opry here in Toronto at the Glen Gould Theatre. So he called me and asked me to do that. Tara Lightfoot and I are his guests, so it's an honor.
Very nice, very nice. Now, you and Tara have been seeing a lot of each other, along with Danielle Lamois.
That's right. Yeah. Well, Tara, I know you know Tara. She's possibly the best person in the world. Best person in my book. She's just wonderful.
Yep.
She in her spare time, she's like a big sister for girls who need a little bit of help and guidance. She is the hardest working person that I know, and she is always on her mark. She's a
powerhouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's her own engine.
Yep. So true.
And Daniel Langlois, actually, Buffy said, the first thing she said in the interview was, how long have we been doing this? I said, I can see Ian and Sylvia, and I can see Daniel Langlois. That's how far back it goes. I don't know what year.
Oh my
it is.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been doing some writing. In fact, you can't really see the room because it's nighttime here and it's dark. But in this room, we've had the Trews and Tara Lightfoot and Colin James and Daniel Lanois, all at different times. So this little old living room of mine has become a bit of a writing sanctuary for a whole bunch of people.
And these songs are for
anything you want, for your album, Terry.
The
songs with Daniel and Tara and I, we're just trying stuff out. About 4 years ago, Dan said, I want to do something. I want to do a trio with you and Tara Lightfoot. And I said, sure. It's one of those things that, in passing conversation, you figure, okay, I'll wait for that call to happen. And then Daniel Lanois joined us last summer on shows with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings and Tara. And he's going to be playing with us all next summer on our shows in Canada. So now we've got this kind of little community going, and now we're writing and recording. So it's nice.
Why, it's almost like a Caribou Express. So, okay, songwriting, fine. The thing that had you come hell or high water today were rehearsals for your new play.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
Called Beautiful Scar?
Beautiful Scars. I've told you, Terry, if you find a good name that kind of catches a little bit of fire, just stick with it. So I had an album with Lee Harvey Osmond with the Cowboy Junkies and myself called Beautiful Scars. And then I wrote a song after that called Beautiful Scars that I recorded with Blackie and the Rodeo Kings and City in Color. And then I wrote a book. Guess what I called it? Beautiful Scars. It became a bestseller. So then they made a little movie about the book. Guess what that's called? Beautiful Scars. And the play, in fact, is called Beautiful Scars. And it's a musical. We have the musical director from Come From Away. We have some wonderful people producing the play. It might stand a chance, and I'm thrilled to be working in. You know what? Nobody has actually given me the rules to life, which is why I just keep going. If there was rules to life, I probably would have stopped years ago.
No, I knew that there was music in there simply because there had to be. It had to be. The basis of the whole life is music, music driven. As a matter of fact, you are going back and reclaiming the title of Junk House, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're doing 4 shows here in Ontario. What happened was our old record label, Sony Music, who I haven't really heard from since 1997 when they stopped being my record label, they decided to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the first Junk House album, Strays. I guess they went through the books and found out that we sold a lot of records for them back then. And so they pressed it into this beautiful vinyl package. So thank you to Sony Music after all these years. It's nice to be in business with you again. And in celebration of that, we're doing 4 shows in Ontario. And, if anybody wants us out west where we're very popular also, we'll go there.
Okay. We'll get to your west date in a second. Lee Harvey Osmond, art shows. What's going on?
Well, the art exhibits that I'm doing are now, I did a residential school art exhibit that involved 9. We've had 9 residential school desks built. And on top of those desks, we put we burned the photographs of families into the tops of the desks, including my great-grandfather, Chief Peter Lazar. As you move forward in the desks, the images disappear, representing the loss of color and culture and language and family and community. And then there's a film component. That opened at McMaster University in Hamilton, and then it went to Stratford last year to the theaters. It's at Queen's University right now in Kingston, and then it's going to Tyndonega. So that's where my art is at. Other than that, I keep painting because it is my meditation, Terry. It's a place where I can focus on nothing but putting colors and shapes on canvases.
Festival Hall in Calgary, October the 19th. Is it a one-off or part of a small tour?
It's 2 shows. We do Calgary first on the Thursday, and then the Friday night we're at Festival Place at Sherwood Park, just outside Edmonton. And I haven't even played. I mean, Blackie and the Rodeo Kings have been to Alberta, but I haven't even played in Alberta in, I think, almost a decade. So I guess I'm overdue. I don't know. We'll find out.
Is this a solo show? What form does it take on stage?
It is a trio with a piano player, Jesse O'Brien, and my son Thompson Wilson on upright bass.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very, you know what? It's exactly what I want to be doing with my life right now. And there's of course a literary component to it, and a lot of new songs. Some of the songs from the play I'll be bringing to this stage at festival.
And storytelling.
I've got a story or two, Terry. You know,
I think you do. Now, how and when did they tell you about being inducted down the road to the Order of Canada team?
Oh, that was in May of this year, and they said keep it a secret. So I actually did, believe it or not, with my big mouth. I actually kept it a secret, and they announced it in June. So I got an email from the Governor General saying that they were going to be giving me the Order of Canada. And I thought, I wasn't even sure. I thought if they were going to give me anything, they'd give me an order of fries, but they gave me the Order of Canada, Terry. And when they called, I'll be quite honest with you, I was overcome. I actually couldn't contain myself. I had to call them back because I was so moved, because I felt Bunny and George Wilson, the people who raised me, I felt them with me, because I knew that how proud they would be of that. And I felt all my Mohawk ancestors with me. And you know what? I joke, Terry, I say I'm a guy from Hamilton. I'm all about coffee and cigarettes. But honest to God, I felt their power. I felt their energy with me. And I was overwhelmed. So I actually said to the Governor General, I'm going to have to call you back. so I did call her back, and it's an honor. I have the Order of Canada, which to me means that I can do better work and get better places to do the work that I need to do for Indigenous communities, like my scholarship, Indigenous Scholarship that I started at McMaster University.
Are you allowed to marry anyone? I mean, marry other couples?
I've been married. I've been married a couple times. I can talk people out of getting married. Does that count?
No, I just, never mind. First of all, I am absolutely thrilled that this happened. I just can't tell you the joy it brought me. And then I thought, being a Mountie, ex-Mountie, I wonder if they knew knew that you got arrested on the Grand River for feeding the protesters.
Feeding the protests, feeding the land defenders, feeding the Mohawks. Well, yes, I think that was part of the reason why they gave me the Order of Canada, because I'm active in my community, standing up for what I believe is right. And as Canadians, we should be standing up for what we believe is right. And hopefully what we believe is right is good and feeds our communities, and also feeds love into our nation. That's what we should be doing. So, the mayor of Caledonia, Ontario, said that there was a bunch of terrorists taking over the town. So I went over to see these terrorists because they're fellow Mohawks. I brought them 30 of those delicious roasted chickens you buy in the grocery store and a bunch of vegetables and things, and went out. And when I got there was people having ceremonies, cooking food, and kids playing lacrosse in a field. Those were the terrorists that we were being told about. So I went and stood by them. And a couple of weeks later, the RCMP showed up at my door, and I got to do something, Terry, I've been waiting to do since I saw Newman do it on Seinfeld. They were standing at the door, and I leaned against the door, and I said, "What took you so long?" And I thought that was really funny. They did not.
No.
They took me and fingerprinted me and took my picture, and I was 61 years old when I got arrested. The most amazing part of the whole story is that it took me 61 years to get arrested, Terry. Can you believe that?
I'll leave you with this thought. And by the way, just so you know, give us those two dates and halls again for the Calgary audience.
Oh, geez. Well, it's next Thursday and Friday. What is that?
July 19th? The 19th and 20th. Yes, July the 19th in Calgary.
19th, I'll be at Festival Hall in Calgary, and then on the 20th, I'm at Festival Place in Sherwood Park. outside Edmonton. I love Alberta. I'm so happy to be coming back. Thank God somebody asked me to come.
And you're welcome, especially those of us at CKUA.
Yeah, thank you, CKUA. And let me know if you need some art, because I'm always ready to contribute to
Do you
help
know what
you guys
I need, buddy? You
make
just
money.
reminded me of something. You see this beam here?
Yes.
Just big enough to hold an oar right there.
Okay.
Or right there. Maybe this one here. Just like that.
All right. I might have to come out to BC and paint it for you, Terry, but you know what? I paint all the time, and I'd be happy to. It'd be an honor to paint for you.
Here's the thing. I'll leave you with this. You had some dark days, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
Dark days where you could have not survived yourself.
Yeah.
And you've pulled yourself up to this moment. Order of Canada. Everything you're doing is working. You could not have known that you could have adjusted your life and changed your life and your soul and your heart. How did you do it?
Love, Terry. Love pulled me through. The love of my children, and now the love of my grandchildren. For a guy who had the order, I went from sleeping on my drug dealer's floor in his living room or his kitchen to the Order of Canada. So when we have love and we give love, anything is possible. I truly believe that, and I am not kidding. That we have got to start listening to one another. We have to start opening up our hearts and sharing what we have. We should give everybody we meet respect and love and gratitude, and be patient. And we should get off Twitter, and we should turn off Fox News and CNN News and anything else that is making us feel bad and aggressive, because we're loving human beings and we have a lot to offer one another.
Okay. I'll leave it at that.
Listen, I love you, Terry. I love CKUA. I sure hope to see you soon, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Take care now.
Okay. Thank you. Tom Wilson. Nice at the end of a show like that you can say, thank you, Buffy Sainte-Marie. Thank you, Tom Wilson. Thank you for listening. This has been the Mulligan Stew Podcast. Over the next couple of weeks, the other guest will be Susan Tedeschi Trucks Band. She has re-released her album of 25 years ago called Just Won't Burn. And it broke her career wide open. She then met 24 years ago, her husband-to-be, Derek Trucks, and Tedeschi Trucks Band now is a force in the music business. And the other interview we'll be telling you about and playing for you is Barney Bentall. Next week, he'll be bringing Caribou Express through Alberta and in the West. Actually, he's going to be in Toronto as well. There's 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 of them on stage at any given time. Each have their own careers, but they get together with Barney, raise a lot of money for charity events, support groups, food banks, at a time of the year when they're really under the gun. And we support them. They support those charities. Barney Bentall and Caribou Express will be the guest next week on the Mulligan Stew Podcast.